Welcome to Black Businesses Matter, a podcast about why Black businesses matter and the benefits of collaborating and advocating for Black businesses to drive impact. Each episode will cover legacy, hope, Black joy, funding sources, cultural shifts, equality, and so much more. Known as the brand maven who transforms organizations with her storytelling prowess, meet Larvetta L. Lofton, host of Black Businesses Matter.
I am Larvetta Lofton, your host and the founder of the L3 Agency.
We will provide inspiration and action while spreading some joy to a thriving community of Black business owners and leading thought leaders.
Alrighty, I'm excited about our next guest, guys. You know, we've been talking about Women's History Month and, bringing thought leaders, female thought leaders, to highlight them in the work that they're doing as entrepreneurs. We believe that this month, finally, and I say this all the time, and I've said it before, is finally we have a month, right? We have a month that we get to celebrate all of the glow of all these glow getters, because women do really glow in their own right. And so I'm excited about our next guest. As you guys know, we try to really identify diversity in entrepreneurship, from service-based businesses to product founders. We think that it's very important to highlight entrepreneurs from that range. And so, this next guest, guys, when I tell you all she's an inventor, we have a female inventor right now in the studio who is changing the game in the space of infant care. Her name is Angelique Warner. She is the USA's first Black female to create and manufacture the only patented 7-in-1 hybrid sling and buckle carrier, boasting a 5-in-1 private hands-free breastfeeding solution. I know that's a lot, right? That's a lot. I'm just going to tell you all, but did I tell y'all she's the first Black female? Okay, she's a first Black female. And her accolades include a partnership with Rush United Medical Center and Franciscan Health, which is outside of Chicago. These are Chicago hospital facilities, and being a Chicago Innovation Awards nominee. She's appeared on ABC 7 Chicago Morning News, and she is being premiered in the Mothers of Invention video by What to Expect. Oh, I can't wait for us to talk a little bit about that. Angelique will continue to create purposeful products that will help improve healthcare outcomes for babies through baby wearing, bonding and breastfeeding, and improving the overall quality of the life of the user. I'm excited to bring her because I promise you all, if you guys were looking on video, you won't believe that she's got grown kids. Like, you just can't believe that she has grown kids. But as a result of those kids growing up, she built an incredible and outstanding product that is a solution for fathers, yes, for mothers, and obviously for grandmothers. She says she's, had grandmothers to use her product. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Larvetta. I'm happy to be here.
So, of course I know you and have watched you, and I promise you, every time I look at you, I'm just like, she does not have adult kids. She does not. So you looking at her with this product and you say, oh, she's got a baby. Like, she's got it. Anyway, she's literally looking at me like, no babies, Larvetta. I'm just playing with the babies, as in the play babies, our baby dolls. Yes. She's like, yeah, I'm playing that, but I'm not. No. Those days are over. And so before we dive into this invention that I believe will be history, right? This will be in history. This will be in books. Yes. People will get to hear about Angelique and solving, because I do think it's solving a problem that for several years that mothers didn't have and fathers couldn't have. And I think that is amazing when we get to have these stories of inventions, because we just didn't have the opportunity to do that. But Angelique, before we dive into, I would love to just know, who is Angelique? Who was Angelique as a little girl?
That's interesting. As a little girl, I would say that I was that inquisitive little girl who talked nonstop.
Okay. I know all about that, Angelique. We were on the same bus for that one.
Yes. That's what all people say. I have a family friend who would say she'd come pick me up. She didn't have children.
Okay.
She was not married.
Okay.
And she wanted interaction.
Uh-huh.
So she would ask my mom if she could borrow me for the day. And she would take me to go on all her errands and shopping. She said because Angelique would keep me company. She would talk, and she would interact like other little kids may not.
I love it.
So that
is so, and I say that because Angelique, I love that you were curious, young lady, because that's what my parents would say. But what I think was funny was, I don't know if you remember, Angelique, when it was they were, I know this is kind of morbid, but it was true. But remember when they were they were snatching kids back in the day?
Yes.
Right? And so my parents were so like telling us what to watch out for. Mm-hmm. So my dad would say, well, if they snatch her, they're going to bring her right back. She's going to ask about 1,000 questions. Now, where is this?
I was told the same thing. Everybody would say, somebody snatched that child. She ain't going to stop talking. And they gonna bring her right back. She won't hush.
They will bring her back. This one right here, we going to take her right back. We ain't got time for this one because she going to ask all the questions. Well, why you do that?
Right.
Well, where's your mom? And where's your dad?
And why?
Why you don't? I think that's funny. So us who were super curious, I think that it was it. And so during that time, and it was like a running joke. But seriously, I would think to myself like, well, I guess if they would snatch me, I would be asking them a bunch of questions. So get me back home.
Give me understanding. My thing is understanding, and I'm still the same way. As a child, I was a big dreamer. And my mom would say that I would wake up in the morning, I remember my dreams vividly.
Wow.
And I would start in the morning telling her my dream, and I'd discuss it all the way until we arrived at preschool.
Yeah.
And I would keep this going. And she says she believes that I would make it up as I go along because I didn't want to stop interacting.
So let me say this. I think I was that child because I remembered patting Ella's shoes, right? Mm-hmm. And so I would, say, hey, I want to wear these. And then I would say, when we get to school, what if this I would just create all these stories. And I remember sometimes I think my mother would be like, okay, like for real. But she would have the full conversation with me. But I would be like, well, and this running joke even today, it was going to the bathroom and not sitting on a seat. I had a story for that. When my mom says you don't sit on the seat. Now, I don't sit on the seat. And anybody who had me, I don't sit on the seat. Now, do you sit on the seat? Well, make sure you don't sit on the seat. Mother would be, she was like, okay, all right.
Okay.
And the why was, because, there's nasty germs and you don't want to get the germs on you, because if you get the germs on you, then you have to go to the hospital. And who wants to go to the hospital? And they would just be like, okay, this one right here. She won't. But, I find that, and I think it's a bad thing. And I think I've had this discussion before and so I would get the check marks with exercise self-control because that was considered, right? You talk too much, you're this. But we realized that, as I've gotten older, now that I've embraced it, it was just being curious. But because even to this day, when children don't talk, it bothers me. Like I'm always like,
me too.
What, how you doing? Good. Mm-hmm. Well, what's so good about it?
Same thing.
What's good about it? Well, what was the best part of your day at school? Right. Math. Okay, but what was it?
Right.
Oh, it was the homework. Okay, tell me about, I'm trying to get more than just.
No one word answers. I won't have it.
I know, Angelique.
I won't have it.
Angelique, I promise you, and I promise you, I am all the way. And I know kids be like, this girl is driving me crazy, but I don't really care.
I don't care either. And I had a godson. He's our godson now. He was one of our kids that lived in the group home we used to live and work at. And he was insisting that, number one, more introverted. He didn't want to communicate. He was angry that he had been moved again. Kids are being bounced around foster home to foster home and group home. And he was thinking, I don't want to be here. I don't know these people, and I don't like talking to people I don't know. And he was living in our home now, and I'm interactive. One word answers will not fly.
That's right.
So I come and talk to him, and he just would look, and he half time didn't want to say anything. And I'm like, I'm talking to you, and he would just want to answer quickly and quietly, like leave me alone. And I remember sitting next to him, shoulder to shoulder, touching, like, you're in this home and we are concerned about you and we're here to love on you and make you comfortable. And I need to know what you like. And he would stare straight ahead at the television like, will she just leave me alone? I just want to just be left alone. And to this day, now we want to fast forward. That was in 1996.
Wow.
Still our godson now. He was just in our home as one of the students we had, but now he's got a title and part of the family.
Oh,
and he remembers that day that you
does.
drew me out of that shell because you would not stop talking to me and you wouldn't just leave me alone. But it was good for him.
And it's crazy because one of my girlfriends, and I'm this village, and so my girlfriend has 3 boys. And so sometimes I would pick them up from school if she couldn't pick them up. And so when they get in a car, we go to the, she says all the time, with this one, with your auntie, she's going to take you to the park. She's going to go home and cook dinner. She's going to talk about dinner. She's going to create. So she's like, that's not what I do here. So don't expect that. Right. And so her son was like, Auntie, I don't like this. I said, well, who told you don't like it? I said, have you ever tried it? No. I said, well, you can't tell me you don't like something if you've never tried it.
Right.
So he was like, okay. And so I said, well, we have a deal. The deal is you have to try it at least once, right?
My deal was 10 times.
Try it
takes 10 times to know if you really like something.
So I said, try once. So literally, I have this fondest memory, and he now is a freshman in college. But he was like, no, I don't like it. So I made it. Do you know there was Brussels sprouts? He said he ate those Brussels sprouts. When it was time to go home, he said, can I get some to go?
That's right.
And I was like, see? I said, just imagine if you had said no and you would have never tried it. Like, you couldn't take him home. And, he was young. I was like, you wouldn't be able to take him home. He was like, oh my gosh, you really helped me. And, and to this very day, he's more talkative. He was a middle child. Sometimes the middle child is kind of quiet. And so I would force that to come out. I'll be like, okay, what do you want? What do you like? And so we have a special bond. Me and Malik, we have a special bond. So knowing that we are talking about you as a little girl, and then let's talk about what made you create and invent this carrier that literally, I don't know. I can't speak for everybody else, but I don't know but 2 inventions that are by Black women. One is actually by a Black man that I know. And then another one was a Black man and then a Black woman. You might be the third that I know. And so I want to hear about the journey and that process of, because I think people invent stuff in their heads, but never, right? They
don't bring it to pass.
Don't bring it to pass. So I really want to allow for you to say, like, what was that journey? Did you have a dream when you had it? And then from there, did you then put it to paper? Like, I want us to understand from that process.
Okay, it was a process indeed. And mine is a little unconventional journey. I literally had an open vision. And keep in mind, I mentioned as a little girl, I was the dreamer and the one who could really tell you every detail of what I dreamed in very much detail because I remembered it that clearly, like a movie. I could tell you all the details of what I dreamed. So I actually had given birth to my 4th child that I had in 4 years. So again, we've got all these little ones in the house. I'm breastfeeding the baby, potty training the 1-year-old twins, and keeping up with a 4-year-old. And we had 14 teenagers living in our boarding school home. So with 18 children at home and breastfeeding and potty training and keeping up with a 4-year-old, it was just a lot on my plate.
Yeah.
Baby would breastfeed only. She never took a bottle.
Baby would not.
She would not take a bottle. I could pump, put it in a bottle, and she would not take it. Same milk, but if it did not come from her breastfeeding directly from me, she would not eat. And I mean, she would scream. I don't care if you waited 5 hours. The doctor was like, it's a way to get her. She would scream if I didn't nurse her. She wouldn't eat. And so it made it challenging at that point because my twins, I could pump. Someone can feed somebody a bottle. I could breastfeed at times. We can go back and forth.
Right.
That baby girl said, no, ma'am.
No,
you don't nurse me, I'm not going to eat. And I'm going to scream until you break down. So every 2 hours, including overnight, so you're talking in a 24-hour period, every 2 hours, I was breastfeeding. And she did that for an entire year, never slept for the full night in a whole year. We know that's not typical of babies. 4 months or so, they're sleeping all night. Not this one. No. So again, this was me being overwhelmed. Now I'm working harder than I did when I had the other 3 children and the 14 boys. And in this one potty emergency, the twins needed to go at the same time, which is not atypical. They generally did everything at the same time. And I was nursing the baby home alone with my 4 children. The boys were at school. My husband's at work. When I'm breastfeeding this baby, and the twins say, we got a potty. of course, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to take her off the breast, put her down, have both hands to help the twins. But she wouldn't let go. I don't care how I tried to get my finger in her mouth to break her latch. She physically would not let go. She would pinch her lips and turn her head away from me like, what are you doing? I'm trying to eat. And I was like, I didn't do pull-ups. So I'm thinking if these twins don't get to the potty like right now, I'm going to have to mop. It's just so much I'm going to have to do. I was so frustrated. And when I realized I can't lay her down, I'm going to have to hold her weight and get them to the potty. I did what I had to do. I did get the twins to the potty in time. Okay. So that's a blessing.
Yes.
No cleanup. No cleanup.
All right.
That was a celebration. So I get them to the potty. And as I stood up after getting each of those babies to the potty, while still breastfeeding, holding a baby with one hand, I had an open vision of a buckled carrier that allowed for in-arms cradle positioning, like I'd held my daughter across my body. And it had built-in privacy and my hands were free. And I literally saw it in front of my face, like somebody show you something and take it away. And I said, oh my God, I need that. And I'm in the bathroom saying I need that while two babies are peeing and one's at the breast and my son bouncing around. I was like, I need this. So I called my husband and said, I need this product. I saw it. And of course, he's go get it, And so I load the kids up. We run to the store. No carrier that I saw in the vision.
Wow.
Go to one more store. And I'm like, where is this? I know what I saw. And I'm asking associates, can you point me to this? Get to the long story short, it was not yet invented. So I made a deal with God. I said, Lord, this is a cruel joke. I need this. This is not a want. I need this. And if it's not on the market, obviously, I mean, you showed it to me for a reason. It's beneficial, but I don't have the bandwidth with 18 children breastfeeding potty training. I just don't. So I said, if this is not on the market when this youngest baby turns 3 and goes to preschool, I'll work on it. If it is on the market, I will not be mad. Because I won't. I mean, like you say, people invent things all the time and don't do it.
Correct.
And God will birth it through somebody else.
That's right.
And I said, if you birth it through someone else in 3 years, I'm not mad because I cannot work on this right now. Sure enough, I take that baby on January 17th, 2008. That was her 3rd birthday. She went to preschool, part of her birthday. Oh, you get to go to school, that kind of thing. Took her to preschool, come home for the first time alone. I had been in my home alone in like 11 years. It was always all the kids we cared for, had staff, you had meetings. It was always, I never enjoyed being in my house by myself. So I come in, and as soon as I get in, the Holy Spirit said, don't forget, you said if it weren't on the market, you work on it. And I was like, 3 years had passed. I said, I did say that. And I was like, so I spent 2.5 hours while she was at preschool searching online to see if it had been invented and realized it was nowhere. I searched the U.S. Patent and Trade Office to see if someone described something similar. Nowhere was this product. So then I spent the rest of that time writing down what I'd seen because, again, it was a vision. And then I spent some time, really, it was in that first year, I spent that time working with a seamstress. At first had her sign a non-disclosure agreement. Can you sew by description only? I cannot draw. I don't have notable drawing or sewing skills. And my degree is in psychology, so I don't have a design or engineering background. I said, I need to describe what I saw as clearly as I can, and I need you to be able to try and sew something that can look and function like what I tell you.
Okay.
So that year of working with her was a swing and a miss.
Okay.
Swing and a miss.
I was ask you, because how did you find her?
Actually, my aunt. This woman was a Japanese woman, lived across the street from my mom, from my aunt. And this woman spent like 20-something years working on an assembly line with sewing. She did cutting and sewing for large brands.
Okay.
And so she said, that lady sews really well. My aunt did, but she said, not like her. She was on the line. She knows how to sew. So, you want to see her. She was retired. Okay. She spent that whole year piddling around, and it took so long because she was retired.
Sure.
She's working on it when she feels like it. When she don't feel well, she ain't being bothered. Correct. But I spent that year, too, working on a patent application.
Okay.
And so I filled out a patent application by myself because when I thought about a patent attorney and realized they were charging $300+ an hour, I said, I don't have the money for that. We got too many children. I can't do that. I wrote it myself after reading countless patent applications to see how do you do this? Thought I had it nailed down. And I was so specific that 11 months later, I kid you not, the patent examiner calls me. And I was like, oh my God, it's the patent office calling. Oh my God, I was so excited. And he says, I just wanted to let you know that your application is allowable. You will be able to be granted a patent. And I was like, oh my God, I did this on my own. I was so proud.
Of course you were.
And then he tells me, he says, I don't mean to be rude, but can I ask you a question? And I said, yeah. He says, did you write this yourself? I said, I did. And I was so excited. Like, yeah, I did. He said, I could tell. tell. And my heart just went like, dang, really? He said, I can tell. He said that you have specified yourself into a corner. Anybody at a zipper, a button, a different stitch, they haven't infringed on your patent whatsoever. They can take your patent because they can say that, not take it, but they can infringe on it without really infringing because I specified myself into a corner. He says, I'm going to advise you to reject this opportunity to be patented. Go hire you a patent attorney, have them write you a broad yet specific patent application, and they will know how to do that. That way your patent is actually protecting you. You accept this, you have zero protection.
That's good.
So that was the first time I was like, okay, I need to figure this out.
Yeah.
Well, I'll backpedal a little bit. I don't know if you've heard of one of those companies. I don't know if I should say the company's name that ended up being more Davison.
Okay.
It's a company that says that I'm going to take your idea and get you from idea, your patent, and get your product on the market. You see these infomercials about these types of companies.
Yes.
I originally called one of those companies before I started thinking I was going to work with a seamstress and stuff. I'm thinking this company, I saw the whole infomercial.
Yeah.
I called, I paid them a down payment to get started, and God intervened. I kid you not.
Yes,
I ended up looking online for how do you get mentorship about inventing? Who can help? Found this one group of retired inventors who donate their time back to be helpful to those coming along now. So I reached out to the first person that was on that that mailing list. And I called. Of course, no idea who's going to pick up, if anybody. I call, and this guy, Ed Zimmerman, picks up the phone. He was at like 80-something years old. So he may not be with us
80.
now. But Ed picks up the phone, and was thinking, oh my God, okay, what do I really want to ask? So I talked with him, and I told him I reached out to Davison and paid them. Do you not know? He says, okay, wait a minute. He said, hang up with me, call them back and get a refund and call me back. And I said, a refund? They're going to start. He said, He said, hang up, call them back, get a refund, call me back. And I'm thinking, do you want to explain to me why I need to give her? He said, just do what I tell you to do. I didn't know this man from Adam. Found him online. I followed his instruction, and that was my saving grace.
Amen.
Called them back. I told them I need a refund. I didn't know why. Sorry, I was just told to get my money back.
Right.
So I need my money back.
Right.
Because it had been so soon, they gave me a refund.
Okay.
So I get my money back, and I call Ed back and say, okay, now you need to explain yourself. I don't know how to start anything or invent anything, and I need some guidance. You told me to get my money back. Now what? He explained to me. He said, you know what? Those companies, it's a money grab. They get your money. They say they're going to get your product prototyped, patented, in the market, make you a millionaire. He said, does that make sense? And I said, well, that's what they advertise. And he said, wait a minute. He said, do you have children? I said, yes. He said, would you have a baby, give the baby away to someone else for them to raise, grow, make them smart, accomplished, all these great things, and then give that baby back to you at 18 and said, look what great work you've done. And you didn't even raise that child. Does that make sense? And I was like, no, I would never do that. He said, that's what you're expecting them to do. Take your baby. Your invention is your baby. You give it away and ask someone else to make it very, very usable, market ready, grow it to be the next big thing, and give it back to you when it's worth millions. Does that make sense? And I never thought of it that way. And I told him, no, that doesn't make sense. He said, okay, now, if you're ready to accept that you got to do the work, then we can talk.
Wow.
So I pass that on to inventors all the time. When you're ready, that wisdom saved me, because he said every time they get you closer to the finish line with those companies, they require more money. And if you don't have the money to continue to funnel into that, then you end up just have lost so much money. And most people keep trying to find more because they feel like I've already invested too much. And that's what keeps you putting all this money into this. And then he said, it's so few people that actually become millionaires and their product make it. He said, and it's because they had a deeper well of money to pull from.
Yeah. So based on that, is your recommendation to have a true patent attorney?
Yes. Don't waste your time. That's a way. If you're not a patent attorney, then you need to hire one.
Yep. And hire one through various resources, right?
Yes. I eventually ended up very recently right when it was time for me to be patented, and patents take time. So
Yeah,
I don't
they
like
do.
to mislead
Yeah.
inventors to believe that I have this great idea. I fill out a patent application or a patent attorney does it and then I'm patented tomorrow. It
That's
does
good.
not work
It
that way.
does not. You're
You're
right.
talking 5-10 years you may be
Yep.
waiting because there's a process of the patent application being refined. In my situation, I kept changing the design because I'm not an engineer.
Yeah.
I'm not a designer. So my design kept changing as I tweaked it for an 8-year period of time. 8 years is a long time to keep saying I had more vision, because that's every time the design changes, because God gave me more inspiration. As not being a designer, God was spoon feeding me little by little at 3 a.m., would wake me up with a solution to a problem in my design where I'm like, God, this is not supporting the baby right. I don't know what to do. And I just would sit and stare at my little piece of a prototype until I'm like, I don't get it. And I would sit quiet and try and pay attention like, Lord, what are you saying to me? Most often, when I say 3 a.m., I don't mean 2:59. I don't mean 3:01. My eyes would open like it's bright and early in the morning at 3 on the dot. And I would have inspiration. I'd be like, oh, it's 3 a.m. And I'm thinking, oh, it's morning. And then I said, it's not. It's dark in here. And I would close my eyes and God would start to reveal to me a solution to the problem I had been fussing over all day or all week. And then I would jot it down. And then the next day I would piddle with that and see how I can make that change. But if anybody knows design, you know that when you change one thing, that has changed the other.
Correct.
You can't say I'm going to change this sleeve
Correct.
and don't realize
And
that sleeve interacts with this part differently. And if you change this part, it interacts with the back differently. So it was a process, but I learned and learned and learned. And who knew after 3 seamstresses of coming and going, I eventually figured out with me and my mother,
Nice.
sitting up trying to figure out how do we fix this. Paying people to jump in my head and figure out the details is not working. Okay, It's just not. So we got to figure this thing out. So we sit down and just worked on this together for months. And do you not know, my mother went back to Oklahoma to stay with my sister. She's with her half the year with me. While she's gone, it's like I had an aha moment. Like, oh my God, I figured this out. You know, we already had our original design, Nurse and Go, on the market. And I needed to rebrand and redesign because I just mentioned I named the business Nurse and Go. That's a feature, being able to breastfeed on the go.
Correct.
You don't have to breastfeed. The grandparents are not breastfeeding. The dads are not breastfeeding.
Correct.
Every mother is not breastfeeding. Caregivers, nannies, all of these people that would use my product are not breastfeeding. And after one short year of having my brand on the market from 2008, really not that, I won't even say that. 2008 is when I started pen to paper. 2016, 8 years to the month. It was January of 16 is when I had my first sellable product in Nurse and Go. Had all my printed material, everything ready, all of my packaging. I then go to my first trade show that October of 2017.
Okay.
Go to that first trade show and saw Money Larvetta passing my booth back to back to back.
I know.
Mothers walking past, I'm not breastfeeding anymore because they had big signs that said Nurse and Go. Then I had grandparents. Oh, I'm grandma. I babysit every day. I got the babies, but I haven't breastfed in 25 years. Then you have dad. I don't even have breasts, ma'am. And I'm like, well, let me tell you about Nurse and Go. I don't have breasts. I had all these opportunities passing me with no way of drawing them back in to say that my product is first and foremost a baby carrier. You can carry your baby.
Yeah.
And then one of the benefits is that you can nurse on the go.
Yeah.
And so I realized then I had to change. I had to change. And in that rebrand, I decided to redesign. And when I decided to redesign is when I had the aha moment in my own little design. And that's another story in itself, how I came up with that, with the design. But it was an aha moment. Aha moment.
And when you think about, I love that, because I want our listeners to understand this, like when you come up with this invention, you decided like, hey, I know that I need to get a patent attorney. But the part that I loved is that you took it to market. You said, let me go to the trade show. Oh my gosh, wait a minute. And you allowed your audience to tell you, no. And I think sometimes that's where we do. We get stuck in, in our own bubbles and what it is. But because you went out to trade show, the audience told you, no, you got this all wrong, which helped you to be able to pivot.
Yes.
And I think that that's what happens is that we, with products, you're building a product and I think it's smart, but then you also haven't taking it to market to make sure, right? Okay, does this make sense? And you're seeing it. You knew that it was money. Like it's money.
That was money, not customers. Money was passing my booth.
He was like, oh, wait, it's money. All I got to do is change the name.
That's it.
And they can come back to me. So I love that you saw that quickly.
Yes.
You
First
know?
trade show.
Yeah, that's powerful because sometimes we spend a lot more in market and not accessing and evaluating to pivot too long. I think especially when we talk about Black, in this community, we get so attached to it. That's and not understand it's time to pivot. And that's pivot. And I believe that pivot ain't a bad thing because pivot gets you to profit way faster than you can ever think of. I just say that all the time. Like pivot gets you to profit.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It gets you to profit. We over here playing and you trying to get to profit. So I don't understand that. But anyway, and so now the name is that when GoGoVie? That's
GoGoVie.
That's when the name came.
Yes,
okay.
That's when the name came. I kid you not. It was all in one. I knew I had to rebrand and I was stressing because money was everything. I didn't have enough funding for my business. And I'm thinking I literally had just bought all the booth display. So you're talking all this money for banners, retractable. You're talking the big banners. You're talking about the tablecloths and all the printed material. And that paper costs so much money. And you're thinking it's paper. That paper is heavy. Shipping, all of that is so much money. And I was so disappointed when I saw that I had to pivot when I just invested all that money. Yeah. And so I made the decision that it was necessary. Like you say, don't sit and spin your wheels saying, no, it's going to be nursing going. I'll help educate people as to why it's a carrier, but it's not just breastfeeding. I'm like, the energy and time it's going to take to get a brand out there, number one, is already hard. Yeah. But then to have to try and do that much more educating to say that it's not just for breastfeeding is a hurdle I don't have to choose to jump over. Let me go ahead and pivot. Yeah. And so I knew that my brand tagline was stay active and comfort. Yeah. I said, that's not changing. It's still about being able to move around and be mobile, have your hands free. That's whether you're breastfeeding or not, you know? So I spent some time and actually told the teens in our family, my kids, my 4, and then because at this point they're much older. So I've got my 4 kids, I've got the cousins, I got all the teenagers in the family. And I said, listen, I'm going to give $100 to whoever can come up with a brand name that really speaks to staying active in comfort. That was my whole brand name. Yeah. And part of that was because I couldn't think of anything in the moment. And I figured I can get to it quicker if I get young minds.
Absolutely.
Do you not know? This old mind over here figured it out, and none of the young minds could come up with a name that was appropriate. They had $100 dangled in front of their little teen faces, and they could not come up with a name that made sense around the brand active in lifestyle. They could not.
Let me tell you why I believe they couldn't. Because in their minds, and I'm saying this as someone who is not a parent, okay? So I think what happens is they had not had that experience and that connection to know what you experienced to say this works. Because that's a personal, right? Having is a personal thing. It's not, and I say that because, I recall, and I'm saying this when we worked with McDonald's years ago as a client, and when they would try to tell how a single mom who didn't ask to be single moms. So they're moms that, whether it's divorced, widow, whatever, didn't ask to be there. And you're telling them, what and how they see themselves when they might see themselves as a failure coming through that drive-through because they're not equipped and they don't have the time. So you can't call them single moms. In their minds, they were like, no, they're single moms. No. They didn't want to be identified because they didn't choose to be single moms.
They didn't choose that.
They didn't choose that. So you have to look at it like, these are moms on the go, right? These are moms on the go. Whether they had the help from the husband or the father is neither here or there. But the reality of it all, and I think when there's so disconnection, that level of disconnect, we can't, I don't think imagination comes into play.
And that probably is what it was because none of the kids could come up with anything. Yeah. And so what I took to is synonyms. I went online and I pulled up synonyms for active and synonyms for lifestyle. And I need to figure out something. So, it's so many words.
It is.
And what struck me with go-go means active.
Yes, it does.
And go-go means active, but it was interesting that we had a family friend who had a toddler. We were kids too, but we was like 6-7 years older than this baby. And her nickname was Go-Go. because she was so
Wow,
active.
That's like my mom.
And literally, so her nickname was Go-Go. And then I took 3 years of French in high school and 2 semesters of French in college because my dad took French when he was in school. And so I call myself bonding, with him and doing the French thing. And then it occurred to me when I looked for synonyms for lifestyle, V was there. And I said, I remember that, that is true. That does mean life or lifestyle. So I paired the two that meant something to me. The name Go-Go as a nickname and V for life or lifestyle. And that's where I got GoGoVie.
I love it.
And I took that to my brand designer. And I had like a list of 25 different names the brand could be switched to. And I put GoGoVie kind of in the middle, not, smack dab in the middle, but kind of toward the bottom in the middle. So it wouldn't, because I love that one.
I know.
And I had all these other
strategic
options. Yeah, I was strategic. I'm like, I need to see if she's going to see what I see without me saying it. And sure enough, when I sent it minutes later, she emails back, GoGoVie, that's it. That's the one. We're done. And I was like, yes, that's the one I love too. And so I went with GoGoVie. Then I had to go ahead and have her start to redesign all of my booth display, all the printed material with GoGoVie. And then what we decided is not to let go of the term or the brand name Nurse and Go. So now we say GoGoVie has a Nurse and Go feature.
Yes.
It's a feature. It's not the name of the product. And that way money doesn't have to go out the door. I don't have to re-educate all the people that this new brand is not just for breastfeeding. I can say GoGoVie has a Nurse and Go feature for those who are breastfeeding.
And I can say, when I first was introduced to you, I thought GoGoVie was an excellent excellent name. And I thought it was an excellent name because, to your point, to me, immediately, I was like, these are people that are active.
On the
like
go.
they on the go. Like, and when you say that, my mother's nickname is Go-Go too. So I just remind, that's her nickname. Her name is Goreen, but her nickname is Go-Go.
Wow.
And so when you say that, I just, for that moment, it's like on the go and realizing and being, because ultimately we're people are typically multifaceted, right?
And multitasking.
Right? Whether it's good for us now because you learn that it ain't really good for us now for that, but in that space of being multidimensional, right? How you can see it from over here to see it over there. Right. And I think that names, when you come up with names, I really believe that it's about being catchy phrases. Yeah. And not literal names, right? When you think and I always use the word Apple and Uber, right? Apple and Uber. Yeah. When you think of Uber could also be a verb, right? I'm about to Uber, right? Yeah. Or I'm about to, I'm Uber excited. Like we can use them in different ways. And so brands that are able to do that, Apple, right? I'm gonna go buy an apple. You part of the Apple community. Like everything, it's an adjective. So you understand that. And I think when you're able to do that, right? I'm a GoGoVier, right? You can add something to it to be able to build on it. And I think that's so powerful because when you think about Nurse and Go, right? To your point, that is necessarily what it does, right? Right. And that's the feature. And so I love that you started one way because honestly, I think when you build out, inventions, right? You think about the press and comb and how it started and then it became, and so we have to understand that that's part of the journey. It is. And don't be afraid that it changed 5 times by the time you get, I think it will. Very likely. It will. Yeah, it will. And I think inventions should be given, the inventors should be given grace. Yes. Grace to grow. I say that all the time. Grace to grow. Because if you don't, what happens is you really are spinning your wheels in something that doesn't generate profit. It just creates that vision to be like, here it is, and here it is right here. Right. So I want to say this, when you create, so now I want to get to, now you've got the name. So where do you manufacture your products? I actually have used 3 different manufacturers since the start of the company in January of 2016. Okay. So I started off with a Chicago manufacturer. Okay. And I was they had the ability to do great work. The only problem is they had very little quality control. And that was the problem. Because let's say, for instance, I get 100 product back in and I open the box and let's say 50 have to go back. That's a problem. I shouldn't have 50% of the inventory defective. That is
unacceptable on every level. So then because I was Chicago based and because I was a small business, they felt like, well, you can, it was maybe a 45-minute drive, but they felt like you can just bring it back and we'll work on fixing it because we're busy with our other larger clients. And so we'll fit you in when we can. I can't start a business being always on the back burner, never taken seriously. You give me garbage that is not done properly. I have to inspect every single baby carrier individually out of the packaging and notice buckles are missing, snaps are missing, something is put on backwards. Something's not there at all. No labeling. When I say it was all over the map, and then you have to label every single carrier and say, this one is missing these 2 snaps. This one is missing the buckles. This one does not have a label on it whatsoever, or it has a label, but not this one. You know the time and energy you have to spend doing that for every single product and drive 45 more minutes to take it back, explain all this, come back weeks or a month later because they're busy. They don't have time to get to your product and make the corrections. You get it back and strings are everywhere. They don't even take the extra thread. It was a mess. When I finally got the finished product from them, I never went back. I said, I can't do business like this. I know I'm starting out, but that's rude, disrespectful.
Yeah.
I can't work like that.
Good for you.
So then I switched manufacturers to someone in Wisconsin.
Okay.
Still able to drive to him, lay eyes, this is me. I'm a small business. I need your help, but we're not going to do what we did with the other place. We're just not going to do that.
Yeah.
So I need you to be professional. They did really good work at a great price.
Okay.
Then we hit 2020.
Okay.
Everything shut down.
Yep.
Call him back in 2021 and say, I'm really ready to get back started. I've been out of business for over a year now. I need to do something. He says, we lost too many sewers. We generally have older women who sew on lines, younger women, if they can sew, they want to have their own company. They want to be a designer. They want to do their older women were fine working on a line. He said, and we lost too many. He said, we cannot work on your product again because the time it takes us to train this young person to do this, they're going to quit within 7 days. If we're lucky, 14 days. We'll have them before they quit. Wow. He said, we can't take on a real product. Right. We stick to tablecloths, napkins, stuff that you sew a seam and that's it. So then I found him. I had 20 manufacturers lined up like, okay, if I want to go back into business. And what prompted me to push to relaunch is because I had gotten a call from HSN and QVC wanting to feature GoGoVie as a small business spotlight. And that was for March of 22. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I need inventory. I don't have anything. I've been out of business for about a year and a half or more. I was like, I don't have anything. So that prompted me to really scramble. It was actually 2 years, 2.5 years. I had no inventory at that point.
Wow.
Long story short, I actually went on this website for manufacturing and I pulled up 20 that possibly would have capacity to make my product. Every single one, we lost too many sewers, sorry, don't have capacity to take on a new product. Sorry, we're still just doing PPE. Sorry. I had the 20th company. This was my last shot. I'm like, I don't have any other US-based manufacturers that cut and sew soft textile products. This is it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Lord, you got to open the door because March, if I can sell on QVC, I need product. That last person in Florida says, we can do it. Still working with them today.
Wow.
They said we can do it. And I could almost drop the phone. They were my last resort.
Your last resort.
Last one. And they said we can do it.
So when you say you didn't have any more inventory, was that because you sold it all?
I actually used to do very small batches in Wisconsin, 30 at a time, 50, because that's what I could afford. Okay. I said, I'm not going to stop business because I can't do it big. You know what? If I can afford 30 and they're willing to do just 30 at a time or 50, that's what we're going to work with. Okay. And when I sell those 30 or 50, you know what I got to do? Skim that money off to have more made.
Got it.
And have a few dollars to go to a little trade show or some event. And that was it. Never taken a salary. To this date, I've never taken a salary. So, I've been grinding.
and I think about there's some things that I want to call out because I think it's important because, as we say, we're celebrating Women's History Month and you being an inventor. What I'm hearing is, you pivot from the name. Then I like that you said we weren't in business for like a year and a half, right? Because some people can say we're not in business means that's a period. You were like, we weren't in business for like a year and a half.
And it lasted 3 total. By the time we had inventory back in our hands, 3.
I love that you decided to resurrect the business,
Oh, yeah.
you know, with a new manufacturer who could handle what you were looking for. But by this time, let's be real, you had one that you didn't work at you. So you knew what you didn't want.
Right.
You know what you didn't want.
Right.
And so I think when you think about inventions, what I'm getting, and you tell me, is it's not about getting the right progress. It's learning what you know you don't need anymore to be able to get what you need. Because the idea is you're not, of course, obviously you want to go in and get it right the first time. But the reality of it all is, I don't know if that's even, I don't know. I'm
not realistic.
It's not realistic, right? And so being realistic says we're going to have a couple of trials, right? We're going to have a couple of things from that standpoint before we get to that space and understanding, you know, what that product can do. And so as we think of it to this day with this new manufacturing company, the other thing that I wanted to ask you was, how did you find these manufacturers?
Actually, the very first one I found, it was me asking another woman who actually has baby carriers as well. People don't want to share their manufacturer. And I found out why, and I can't be too angry with why. The why they didn't want to share, when I went to that first conference and met some women who have baby carrier businesses, the reason they don't want to share is because what if your business takes off more than theirs, and then they'll treat me like that first manufacturer treated me? They realize that I don't need them making you priority, and then they don't have time to do my product the way I need it done. So they would hold their manufacturers close to the breast. You weren't going to find out about that.
Wow.
But one of the women here in Chicago, she decided to go ahead and share with me.
So I was just going to say that. She did. I'm just saying. I just want to throw that out there.
She shared, and I was so grateful that she shared, because then I made the phone call and they said that they would work with me. Now, this was not her manufacturer. She still wasn't willing to share with me hers, but she said, I'll give you a manufacturer that's local that you can try.
Okay.
And so from there, I found out later that there's an organization called SEAMS, SEAMS. And if you go to SEAMS.org, that's where you have all your cut and sew soft textile manufacturers.
SEAMS?
Yeah, like a seam on a dress. SEAMS.
Wow.
Seams.org. And finding out about this little, like a secret club at that time, you could not find that anywhere. Everybody was like keeping it hush hush. They didn't want people having access to manufacturing their own products for fear that it takes away from their opportunities or some competition.
First, I get it. I do. I get it. I get why.
I get it. I didn't like it.
I get it. I don't like it either. I'm over here like,
I get it.
I mean, if yours blow up, okay. Well, then, hey, if you blow up, then to me, as long as I'm aligned to you, we blow up together. That's just how I think, right?
Yeah. Because we're connected on some level, but
So, you know, because to me, that manufacturer will remember that they referred to me. So I'm not going to sell her out because she brought her to me. That's the way I see it. But I understand that the way I see it sometimes isn't how it is.
That's true.
And so by understanding that, so here we are. We're back in business.
Yes,
I like
back
that.
in business.
We're back in business.
September 22.
September 22 of 22.
Yes.
Right? Of 22. We're back on business. So tell me about, are we still on QVC? Are we still on, are we all there? Are we there?
Well, I'll put it this way. When I went live on the QVC Small Business Spotlight March, Women's Business, Women's History Month and all that, it actually was not a go. I mean, I was on the show, but I had to talk about the business with no inventory. I was one of the few business women that was featured March of 2022 that did not have inventory to sell. And it was a few of us because, again, we were just starting back in manufacturing phase in this country. And really around the world, to be honest, people were just starting to peel away from PPE manufacturing only to, okay, we can start getting back into regular life business. And I didn't have inventory. And I was so disappointed. I had met my manufacturer in Florida, but we had not started to, I didn't have inventory yet. You know, we're still sourcing materials, negotiating pricing. It's a long process. It's not a phone call and then they make your product and send it to you. They need all your, all the measurements. They need your samples. They need so much stuff. They have to give you a prototype for you to test it out and make sure it's right. You have to literally take your product back to a test company. Have them tested for safety all over again because they say that we know your design was tested years ago, but it's a new manufacturer. What if it doesn't uphold all the safety standards with this new manufacturer? What if you put a baby in it?
QVC require all?
No, that's just the state. That's just the country. They say that if you have a baby product, you're going to have to test that thing and make sure it is safe
that makes sense.
and appropriate.
Okay.
And every time you switch a manufacturer, you have to do that as well, because they have to know that this new person did not sew something so janky that this baby goes in and then they end up injured.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was such a long process. I didn't have inventory for March.
Got it.
With that said, I did get inventory in time for September. So I did go on the Small Business Spotlight. I did get to talk about my brand and feature the brand and make people aware. And I had one pre-order. I told the public, I'm being honest, I have no clue when this inventory will be here. I'm expecting it later, but I cannot guarantee you when it'll be in hand. So if you need GoGoVie right now, I can't help you. If you have a baby that's due later, and you're willing to wait, I'll make sure you get your product. So one person took a risk on not knowing when they would get it, which makes sense. It's a baby product. It's time sensitive. The woman who interviewed me on the Small Business Spotlight, she said, I'll be your first pre-order and I will wait because I have a grandbaby coming months later.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank God for the grannies, baby.
Yes.
Them grannies.
They are a big part of my market.
Yes.
Those grandparents getting those baby carriers for their grandchildren.
And in hindsight, though, Angelique, I don't think that, and I love pre-order. I love when we're being authentic because honestly, most people are planning when they're about to have a baby.
They are.
And so
as they should.
Yeah, as they should. I mean, and I've heard horror stories of people like, we built the baby room and you know, I will say this, right?
I've
and then there's a miscarriage, you know? So I hear people buy everything and nothing, you know?
Yeah,
so
no baby to bring home.
Yeah, no. So when you hear about that, so that's not uncommon for people to prep, right? And buy the necessary, you know, products, material, all of this stuff because they don't know what they're getting themselves into. I could see that from that, Angelique. So I want to say for you now, I see that you're featured in a book. Yes. So tell us about this book. This book is exciting. The woman who is the author of the book, Edith Tolchin, the book is called Secrets of Successful Women Inventors. And she's written an article about me before in Inventor's Digest when I had the product named Nurse and Go. She's re-interviewed me for magazine articles when it said Nurse and Go is now GoGoVie. And now she was writing a book. And she remembered me. And I've known her for years because I met her at my very first Inventors convention. I mean, years and years ago. And it saw a little snippet of me on a Jay Leno Tonight Show because they had their comedian at that expo. And they saw me with a carrier and, of course, made jokes about, so your hands are free. You can smoke a cigarette, open a beer. And it was just a shock on my face. Like I had a prototype of something and they, you know. I met her at that conference. And she was someone who, again, being an author and telling people stories about invention and bringing them to market, we kept in touch and worked together a little bit along the way. She remembered me when she was writing this book and she said, I want to tell your story, your journey from invention. And as my business coach says, to invoice. You know, you got to get from idea to invoice. How do you get this thing to the market and make money? So she wanted to include myself along with, I believe it's about 26 other women inventors. And it truly is just a compilation of our journeys and what it took to get from idea to invoice. And what was so interesting is that I am chapter 8 in the book. And I was 8 years exactly from January of 2008 when I put pen to paper until January of 2016 when I had my first sellable product in Nurse and Go. And so I'm chapter 8 and mine is the longest chapter. I know. Well, you've got a story though.
I got a story.
You got a story to tell. And it's very personal, right?
It is.
It's very personal. And I love it for that very reason because it is personal. Someone who isn't a parent, who isn't, but I understand but I got a lot of busy moms in my life, active moms who, you know, when I think I mentioned to somebody, it was like, girl, if they had that, baby, I would be nothing nice. Seriously. And I was like, well, thank God, because I'd be scared for you. I would be, for some of them, I would be a little scared because they would literally do the most. Do the most. So how can they order this book? Is it available?
It is. Okay. The book launched October 3rd. Okay. So that's pretty, recent. We're talking, about 1 month ago. Exactly a month ago. So October 3rd, it launched and it's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
And it is called The Secrets of Successful Women Inventors.
That's correct.
So I'm just going to say this,
with
guys.
the forward by Barbara Corcoran.
Oh,
Shark.
nice.
She wrote the forward for the book and said that these are the cream of the crop. Women inventors. So if you want to know anything about getting your idea off the ground,
I love it.
These women can help you navigate that.
So, guys, I just want you all, if you're tuning in, I'm just going to recap Angelique Warner, who is the first Black female Black inventor of this buckled carrier for infants, and is 7-in-1. And so what I do want to make sure is people know how to learn about the product. What's your website?
GoGoVie.com.
So that's GoGoVie, VIE, guys, VIE, GoGo. And then her handles. What's your handles?
At my GoGoVie.
At my GoGoVie.
Yes.
And the reason why I say that is I had to stop because literally that's my mother's nickname, GoGo. And so I'm like, oh my gosh. And my father would say that's my GoGo, literally my GoGo. So I'm just having that little moment. And so when I think about people. And one thing I do want people to do is get more information from you, because what I know, Angelique, that you are creating is almost like this community for inventors. Like you're becoming a thought leader in the space, and I'm loving it. Because I say that was the space that I feel like you are being on talk shows, being visible, really talking through, because I don't know that we can identify. I think the closest thing that we can identify when it comes to Black is kind of like Damon John, right? Creating that. Yes. And then athletes, right? And we're not able to touch them per se, and to know that that from that sense, we know a lot of beauty inventions, but not really product. And so I think you being that space as a thought leader really helps those that have these incredible ideas. And I love this, and making their ideas into an invoice. Yes. So that's a book. I need you to do a book. That's a book. I'm putting it out there. That's a book.
Yeah, that's a book.
That's a book. That's a book. All right. I just named it. I'm sorry. I just put it out there. And it's recorded. So we can't like move it out, right? I guess we could delete it, but it's recorded.
Invoice. It has to be a book.
I think that's a book because I think that there are so many people who said, I had that idea. I actually created that idea. But they stop because, they stop because I think you said it. This is not like turnover tomorrow. It's really slow and steady wins the race. And I believe in that. So, I want to ask you, what brings you joy?
What brings me joy? It's a few things. Okay. One of the things that come to mind is being in the presence of God. Amen. That brings me joy and peace and being filled.
Okay.
And I like to always come from a place of being full and not empty, because I cannot pour out when I'm empty, because there's nothing to give. And people can tell when I'm tired and I need a break. And they'll say, you need a minute. Yeah. I need a minute, So that brings me joy. What also brings me joy are my babies.
Yes. Your babies.
They're not literally. Now they're 18. The twins are 20. My son's 22. So we have, all four of them are not babies, but they bring me joy watching them grow and mature into the young adults that they are. And getting to know them all over again as young adults brings me great joy. I'm like, wow, we poured into them. We created them. Yeah. And then we poured into them. And now look at them. 2 business majors, a psych major, a school of acting major. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we did this, babe. We did this.
Yes. I'm throwing it out there because this is what I got. Big vision. I see a reality show coming with the kids. I'm just saying, where we get to see the kids now have babies with their GoGoVie carrier.
Come on, Jesus. Let the babies have the babies with GoGoVie.
Look, I'm just saying, look, the kids of GoGoVie now as parents.
Yes.
I would love that. That would be so dope, because let me tell you something. We don't understand, that's the legacy business. Yes. They don't see it yet, but they're going to see it. That's the legacy business that's going to allow for them to be able to live off of that. I know they living their best life, and that's okay.
Yeah, they're in college. You know how that is.
Yes, I do. And I ain't mad at them. But at some point, that's going to be the legacy business. It is, because that's a whole lifetime HGTV show. It really is. Honestly, in that space. So, because in my mind, and my mind is big, I'm like, HGTV should, and I say this from a home, like thinking about people who are developers, construction, you know,
Right.
that they're home doing their stuff and they like, okay, I'm gonna come over there and watch the home. I'm gonna walk with my little, my carrier.
Yes,
you
have
know?
your baby on you. And I love home
yes,
design. You know, I'm a licensed realtor too. So for me, when you said HGTV, I'm like, that's my favorite channel.
Yeah, me too, Angelique.
I'm always loving
and I'm
that.
like, I could see, you know, when I look at all those shows, because I look at them all the time, and they have all these babies, and I'm like, I can see them walking with and just saying, "Hey, I mean, it's
I
a
do
little
what
commercial there.
what I do,
Yes.
but I still get stuff done with GoGoVie.
Yes.
You got to get it done.
I'm just saying, I'm just putting it out there for
And I
those that are
receive it.
listening.
I'm grabbing.
You know, so, you know, folks are listening. So I have to ask you this question. You know, we're talking Women's History Month, but as Black businesses matter, we think it is important as a movement that it is important to make sure that stories that are told about us of thriving Black businesses and our stories are being told, but more importantly, that they're also being understood, they're being valued, you know, and I think the more that I, you know, hear these stories, like, and I said this when we first started, and I've said this on many of episodes, it's like, you know, people will be like, oh, Black people are the same. No, we not, right?
No.
And so realizing that, and then more importantly is we do struggle, but I do think that we haven't heard the thrive side, right? You still had an idea that could be a thriving idea, but obviously we all struggle to get there. And I think that's universal.
Yes.
Whether you Black, brown,
The
or
struggle
whatever.
bus
The struggle
accepts
stick.
everybody.
I mean, it accepts everybody. You want to get on the bus?
You want to get on? Come on.
Get on the bus. Now, the problem is we, of course, lack access and a lot of things that, you know, other cultures have a little bit more advantage over that. And so I want to ask you this: why do Black businesses matter?
Black businesses matter because, number one, we are so innovative and so capable, so creative. We have so much to offer. And oftentimes, sadly, we do have to take the route of the struggle bus to get to where we want to be, to show the world what has been deposited in us. But we're resilient people.
Yes, we are.
We are. We're resilient. So most of us will say, you know what? The struggle bus may be my mode of transportation.
Yeah.
But it's still going to get me there. It's still going to get me there.
Still gonna get
I don't want to be on the struggle bus, but if that's the route I have to go, I'm not going to sit down and abort the mission and not show up and be on my post on time.
That's good.
With energy, with my product, because I had to come by way of the struggle bus.
Yeah.
You may have been able to take your Lamborghini and get there,
Correct.
but I couldn't get there that fast.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
It is okay.
You know, because if that's what I have to do, I'm still going to show up smiling, have my afro on point, and say, hi, have you heard of the GoGoVie brand? I'm going to show up and show out, and I don't care that I had to take the long route and that it was hard and that I didn't get to eat because I didn't have the budget for the food. I had to just get there, and I had to pack what I always pack when I'm on the go. You know, pack me a little something to hold me. I don't care. I'm going to do what I have to do because I'm on assignment.
And that's good.
I'm
and
on
that's
assignment.
why that's why Black businesses matter.
That's why we matter,
Yes.
because we're resilient. We're going to do what we have to do to birth the vision, whatever that vision is, whether it be a product-based business, whether that be a service-based Black business.
Yeah.
Black businesses in and of themselves hold so much weight, and the world literally hinges on what are Black people doing, what's happening in Black culture. They are watching.
Yes, they
and
are.
if they're going to watch, we need to take center stage, baby. Come on now. Come on, somebody.
Center stage. I love it.
We
I
matter.
I love it. Take center stage.
Center. Not take the stage. Take center.
You made it very clear.
Come on.
Take for real. Take center stage. I love that you say that. And so I just want to say this, guys. I know you are listening to this episode. Like, where did Angelique come from? I know you are, because literally we all are over here because she is our first inventor. She is our first inventor. We're celebrating her as a woman in this Women's History Month and having this novel product that is revolutionary, that is changing the way that men on the go with their children. We've got to make sure that, and it's an inclusive product.
Yes.
And that's the one thing that I love too, that, you know, allowing for the whole tribe, community to participate and nurture that, because it takes a village. Literally, it takes a village. So guys, get that book. If you've got a product inside. Maybe your kid has an invention that they have and you want to start them somewhere. I say you want to get this book so that they can learn from other successful women inventors. And I'm just going to allow for Angelique to drop her website again. And her handles again. So drop your website and your handles.
Yes, it's GoGoVie.com. That's GoGoVie.com. And you can always follow me at my GoGoVie. You can always find me also at Target.com and Amazon.com. And if you are choosing to have your baby at Rush United Medical Center or Franciscan Health in Olympia Fields, you will definitely be given GoGoVie.
Oh, wow. Like they will actually give it to them? Girl.
Yeah.
Oh,
Those two hospitals have supported.
That's awesome.
Strongly.
That's awesome.
And so they have supported strongly and say, if you go through the birthing or breastfeeding classes at Rush, when you complete those courses, GoGoVie is what you go home with.
Oh.
If you have a baby at Franciscan Health in Olympia Fields, all the mommies that give birth go home with GoGoVie.
Wow, that's awesome. That is incredible, Angelique. And I just want to throw this out. And for those that want Angelique to speak, because I think she has an incredible story, on those that want to take their invention into invoice, I'm pulling on her a little bit on that. How can they reach you? I know that LinkedIn.
Yes.
Okay.
You can reach me on LinkedIn. You can also, of course, reach out to me through social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook and all of those social medias. So you can find me anywhere at my GoGoVie. And you can reach out that way. You can always call me at 833-GoGoVie.
833-GoGoVie. Did y'all hear that?
Yes.
So, guys, this has been incredible. Just happy Women's History Month. I'm excited about this month and bringing you all some incredible women that are just changing the way that we see things in this space of entrepreneurship. So more to come for this entire month. And thank you. Thank you, Angelique, for being here with me.
Thank you for
and being
me.
a guest. I am so excited. I'm just over here. Like when we get to talk about stuff that I get excited about everybody. So, I mean, that is what it is. So guys, thank you all for tuning in and we'll see you next week.
The Black Businesses Matter podcast is produced by the L3 Agency, a culturally sensitive influencer, marketing, and communications firm in Chicago, where relationships are our currency, passion is our profit maker, and people are our bottom line. Follow us on Instagram at Black Businesses Matter.